Hello, this is a short video on how I use the destruction add-on for these animations, as you can see. If you'd like to skip to the video for that part, I recommend going to 1 minute and 40 seconds of this video. So the first is a setup. For the animations that you have seen in the start, I haven't used a detailed background. It's just a plane with it extruded vertically and then beveled to create this sort of effect. For the sky, I use an add-on, physical atmosphere, which is very good, highly recommend it. And that's pretty much it. I added a camera and an object to track it. Next step, I will be adding the object which I will be destructing using the add-on. I highly recommend creating a simple object with a limited amount of faces, as it will help drastically in the future. For this, I have been trying to use some modifiers to achieve this. For step 3, you don't actually need this, but for my animations I added these rocks. So these rocks come with Blender. If you click on add, mesh, and then rock generator, you get these sort of rocks. To add detail, just increase the detail and the roughness value. For my animations, I also had these particle simulations with gold objects. There's nothing really difficult about this. For the particle object, it's just a cube to reduce the number of faces. Added a gold shader to it, and the main, I think the main part for this is to have the turbulence force field, which gives this interesting effect. So in this part, I'll be talking about how I do the destruction part, which is the main part of the video, pretty much. So this is an add-on called RBDLab. This is the newest version, which is 1.41. So the first thing I want to look at is doing the fracture. So the way to do this is click on the object and that you want to fracture, and open up the add-on. You should have this panel on the right side of the screen. Now there's many ways to fracture this. You can either draw a shape, which is going to follow to fracture, or you can use a particle system and fracture from that. For this part, I've done a particle fracture, as you can see. So that's pretty much the most default sort of fracture. It's very simple and it's very quick, and that's the best part about it. So once you fractured it, you can fix some things, which is pretty nice, but since this is a simple shape, it's nothing to fix. So make sure to apply this, which has happened, and you're good to go for the next step. So next step is the physics part, which basically adds gravity to these objects, which we then can use to animate. You can, in the panel, you can see you can add like a ground, which basically adds collision. But in my part, I already have a separate ground, which I just added a rigid body with passive modifier to it. So once you basically just click physics and then set add rigid bodies, I think it was, you should be able to have these gravity applied. Make sure the start simulation is basically the same timeline when you start. That's one thing that happened to me, which basically prevented it from working at all. So once we click play, we can see it's moving about, which is great. The reason it doesn't go down is because I have gravity disabled within the whole scene. So that's why it doesn't go down. For you, it probably will go down. So another cool thing about this physics is you can set passives, and these basically disable the gravity or rigid body effect to the whole simulation. In some situations you don't really want this, but for mine I decided to add that as it adds more interesting animation effects. As you can see, there's some shader difficulties here. As long as you have UV mapping done, it should be alright. So the final step is to add some sort of effect to move these cubes or fractured pieces. So one best way to do it for me personally is to add a force field. You can also add a collision object and animate it so it goes through it as if there's some sort of like explosion or physical contact. That's very good too. I tend to use that too. But for this, I just wanted a simple effect. So for this, I used a force field. In more specific, I use the turbulence force fields, as that gives like an interesting abstract sci-fi looking simulations, as you can see here. Personally, I tend to like keyframe the strength of the turbulences, as that makes an interesting simulation too. And yes, that's pretty much all that is. In the panel, in the add-on panel, you can see there's a bake button. That's what you use to basically finish everything, and I recommend baking it all through that. And that's pretty much it. So thank you for watching, and yeah.